I would now like to talk about the topic of organization as a social network, and then to explore what in my mind is then important for leaders, how they should lead in an organization like that. So if we think about organization and a social network or social structure, I think you could name and lots of words that are currently bubbling, in the leadership articles and topics and conferences. So leaderless organizations, flat organizations, self-organizing organizations and teams. And I believe you could name much more sort of descriptions of what is bubbling in the sort of scientific area. And I must say that some of us, of leaders, find this idea quite attractive, to think that organizations are more balanced, that they are less hierarchical, that the decisions are sort of really decentralized. Some of the leaders, I think, find it quite scary because it is much more difficult to understand that the role of the leader in the flat organization and actually to describe the role of the leader. So even though the idea might be very attractive of organization as the social network opposing to very strict and maybe tall hierarchy, what does it do for us as the leaders, and what is important actually for us as the leaders to develop in such a context? In my mind, the role of the leaders in the social structures or organizations as social networks changes quite a lot. First of all, leaders or managers should be capable to self-reflect and be very self-aware, because they have to be very conscious and put actually a lot of effort in designing and describing their roles. In flat organization, it is not that obvious who the leaders are and what they do. And the other thing is that they have to actually get the social power, because it's not within hierarchy anymore. So to do that, we should understand also the social network and also opportunities and challenges within the social structure. So within the organization, we as leaders should really understand organizational dynamics much better. We should understand what is the emotional task of organization and also what organization is doing socially. So on that aspect, I think it is very important to develop self-reflection and also to learn to sort of read organization as the social structure. If you think about flat organizations or sort of leaderless organizations or self-organizing organizations, I think leaders or the managers faces a couple of difficulties. First of all, I think the difficulty in itself is actually to get leadership role, because it's not within the structure, it's not prescribed hierarchically anymore. And we know that actually getting the leadership role is demanding in a way that you should get the inner power, you should define the role and connect to the people. So in order you want to lead them, you should understand them and actually understand the social process. The other thing I think it's also quite challenging in flat organizations is to be capable to build the relationships within organization. So if we think about organizations as the social networks where the hierarchy is not working that strongly, then connections and relationships among people is the key to make actually organization working effectively. So their leader's role is extremely important to create the spaces, to resolve conflicts, to find the opportunities, how organization through a social network and social connections might be much more efficient and sort of delivering on the goals. We could also think from employees' perspective or members of organization perspective, what is easy and what is difficult about working in an organization which is flat or which is operating more as a social network. I think the difficulty is that it is not that obvious how the work or the task should be done. And that means that we, as members of organization, which is flat, should actually develop quite strongly personal leadership, so that we are very much proactive in finding the ways how to deliver on the task. And we should also find, with whom we are going to work or with whom we are going to succeed. So in a way, I think we could think about organization as a social network, as a very living organism, who in a way might be looking a bit chaotic, but if you look at it closer, you can understand, the sort of the rules or the methods, how it's working. So it is actually quite a difficult task also for the members of organization to set up the rules and to set up the ways how it's working and keep the system going. So as we can see, there are a number of challenges for leaders and also for the members of organizations who are flat, who are more operating as social networks rather than hierarchies. But there are also plenty of opportunities. So usually flat organizations are quicker, they are more adaptable, usually they are more creative, so there are lots of opportunities, but also, as I was telling before, people, leaders and members in such organizations should actually be quite strong socially. That means they should develop social skills, they should be capable to reflect, provide and give feedback. So there are lots of things that are important socially for such organizations to exist and succeed.